Maine and Hampshire were once very much the same type of states. If you looked after World War II, our states were very similar. The demographics were the same. You had a large French-Canadian population, as did we. You had recent Irish immigrants. You had traditional residents, Yankee farmers. Our industries were very similar. We relied heavily on textile mills, and we had comparable manufacturing. We both relied heavily on the harvesting and processing of wood products. In fact, in many ways, Maine had advantages over New Hampshire after World War II. Your per capita income exceeded that in New Hampshire. You were a more prosperous state than New Hampshire. But since then, Maine and New Hampshire took off in different directions. For various reasons, and we can, if you're interested, I'd be glad to talk to you about it, but for various reasons, New Hampshire stayed with the tried and true course of limited government, and Maine went with the way other states did. In I think it was 1951, you enacted a sales tax. In 1969, you enacted an income tax. These different responses have resulted in very different states. For many reasons, recently, and until recently, we in New Hampshire had a similar response, which is we kept to our limited government. Recently, that hasn't been the case. And again, until recently, we had a smaller state government than most states. In New Hampshire, our people have benefited from our unusual approach, and it is unusual nationally, to state government. If you compare the same statistics on societal health that showed Maine and New Hampshire were very similar states in 1951 when you first enacted the sales tax, statistics on school graduation rates, percentage of intact families raising children, children inoculation rates, crime statistics, per capita income, we were all very similar in those days. Now those statistics favor New Hampshire. Our per capita income is 20% higher in New Hampshire than it is in Maine. The high school dropout rate in New Hampshire is 25% lower than it is in Maine. 8.6% of our children live in poverty in New Hampshire. That's less than half of the number of children who live in poverty in Maine. The crime rate in Maine is 25% higher, and the poverty rate is 60% higher in Maine than New Hampshire. And in August, this past August, the last month for which statistics are available for the states, their unemployment rate was 30% higher. Now, this isn't meant to bash Maine. And there are some categories we exceed us, and you have some bragging rights. Your violent crime rate is the best in the country, actually. We're number 3. You do well on that. And then, of course, these statistics don't show the quality of life that often just can't be reflected in statistics. Statistics, for example, don't show the beauty of the sunrise on the Cadillac Mountain on Mount Desert Island, or it doesn't show the pleasure of being able to sail among the islands of Penobscot Bay, or it doesn't show the many fine restaurants you have in Portland and the vibrant cultural life there. But they do point out that choices made by legislatures can have a long-term effect that can either enhance the life of our people or they can diminish the life. Because in those statistics, in those double of the number of children living in poverty are real people who years ago, even though the legislators didn't know they were making this choice, they made the choice that their lives would be diminished in that way.